Time to start the most controversial series I will ever make, ranking every Pokemon from every generation. As you might have noticed, there is a teeny tiny part 1 in the title of this video. This is simply because I do not have the willpower to rank every Pokemon in a single video, and also this way I can milk much more content from a single tier list that simply gets bigger over time. To short the experiment process, I will start out with Gen 1, and each episode I will add Pokemon from the next gen to this tier list. This tier list is divided by the following tiers. First, we have the gender difference versions and other Pokemon that I didn't include for some reason or another. Then we have the Pokemon that are just the worst. The ones in this tier have earned a special place in the deepest, darkest pits of hate in my heart for making my time of playing Pokemon so much more annoying, and I just really want to punch them. After that, we have Pokemon that I hate. You might think this tier and the worst might be the same, but they're not. Okay? Pokemon that I hate do not necessarily need to have ruined my time playing. I might just hate their design. Boring. This is definitely the second most superficial tier. Maybe. This entire tier list is very superficial, but you will see that later on. Pokemon in this one just have a boring design. Unless they have outstanding lore, or I have nostalgia bias with them, they belong here. Pokemon are neutral, don't make me feel anything special. They're just neutral, maybe offensively so. These Pokemon I like. I had to add this tier because I had just too many Pokemon in the like tier that aren't really on the same level. Pokemon in here are just in general the ones that I could see in my team if I was playing any of the games, but I don't have any bond to them that's too special. Cute is basically on the same level as like more, but the Pokemon here are cuter, so they are actually probably a bit higher than the previous tier, because these Pokemon are just the ones that I would really want to have as a pet or just pet in real life. Like I said, very superficial, a lot is just based on looks. This tier is basically the nostalgia tier. I mean, not really, but kinda. Pokemon here are definitely close to favorite, but some of them just have nostalgia bias and I wouldn't necessarily want them on my team even though I love them. This is just my favorites. Even though this is probably going to be the smallest tier, I will have a story to talk about in length when talking about every single little creature in here. Pokemon in here have everything for me, from nostalgia to lore to design. I will always love these Pokemon and I have only good memories with the ones in here. Okay, now that I've explained my process, I will start the main video. I will not take any criticism on any of my choices. I am right about everything, and if you disagree, you're dumb and probably just mad that someone could have an opinion as perfect as my own. And now in the words of a semi-bad spin-off of the first generation, let's go! Okay, let's get started. I will skip the gender differences, but as you might have noticed, there are also Galarian, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. I included these because I never saw them in any game. Literally. I've never played the DLC of Sword and Shield, I never saw them in Pokemon Go. I never even heard them mentioned anywhere, and when I first saw their design, I thought they were legitimately fan-made. Like, it's not even bad designs, it's just that I know so little about them, I have seen them only in the most rarest of occasions, that I don't even feel comfortable putting them in neutral. My disconnection to these oversized Chingwings is so prejudiced it overshadows any feeling of neutrality I could ever perceive. Anyway. The worst. I think, or at least I hope, that nothing in here will be a surprise. Zubats, Golbats, Geodudes, Gravelers, and Tentacools have ruined so many experiences for me. Imagine exploring a mystical cave, be it underwater or on dry land. One of these flippers will drop in and ruin the experience. You hope for new and exciting Pokemon never seen before, just for Game Freak to throw 25 oversized bats and pebbles right at your ballsack. Oh yeah, and I also put the Alolan forms of them in here too, just for good measure. Flip these guys. Hate. Most of these mons never ruined an experience for me, but I still hate them. Machop just looks like a naked child, and I wish to never see that thing ever. Tentacruel is the same as Tentacool, just in, well, higher level areas, and Onix bullied me in enough caves for me to hate him. I don't even remember what game he bullied me. I just have this not burning. I have this kind of. I don't like to look at it. I don't have good memories, even though your crystal version is so cool. To be honest, I don't know why I hate Grimer, but I just find its existence offensive. Nothing personal, you ball of purple pus. Purple? Purple pus. You turtle pus. And now these two flippers. These round bastards. These unoriginal Kinder eggs. These are just the only argument you will ever need against a Gen 1er saying, the newer gens are unoriginal. Nothing more. If the Gen 1er doesn't accept defeat, just leave them be. They are beyond saving. And that's the only use these balls have. I hate everything else about them. Friggin' exploding bastards. Dislike. Okay, this will be, I think, at least the most controversial tier, and it's supposed to be. That's by design, because this is basically the, in my opinion, kind of a hype tier, even though I don't really hate the things in here. Let me explain myself. The sheer amount of Pikachu and Charizard stuff I have seen has just been too much on me. For me, not on me. God damn it. I just don't care enough for these Pokemon, even though I think that they are overall solid when judging their design or use in-game. But the fabricated overhypeness by Game Freak has just driven me mad. Why, on Arceus's green world, does Charizard have 2 flippin' Mega Evolutions? Huh? Why? Why does Charizard always need to play such an important role? Leon has a Charizard, Ash has a Charizard, Charmeleon is one of the second starters you get in X and Y, it has a Gigantamax form on top of that, and its card is always advertised as one of the most expensive ones. And I am just waiting for Game Freak to release a cursed paradox form of it. To be fair, all of the Kanto starters have this, let's call it problem, but I have never been so annoyed by the other ones in comparison to Charizard. As you can see, I can only put Charizard here and not its pre-evolutions. I think the 2 Mega Evolutions just did it for me to feel insulted by this thing. And that even though I like the Megas, they are on the same tier list, just way higher. I don't think I need to try to explain my frustration any further. I really fumbled that last part. Anyway, I think Pikachu needs hopefully no explanations. For crying out loud, it's the mascot. Also, I feel insulted that Raichu didn't get to be the evolution of Pikachu in Pokemon Unite. Why not give it the same gimmick as Scissor? Just let me have my Raichu if I want to have it. Or my Pichu too. But evolution is so much better than anything Pikachu can ever pull off. This tier is not good for my blood pressure. To cut myself short for the rest, Jinx is racist, Mewtwo is overhyped. Again, 2 Mega Illusions, it's just a hairless bipedal cat, and Mr. Mime definitely did Ash smile. Boring. The Pokemon here are boring. That's it. I kind of measured if they belonged in here by whether or not it's possible to describe them by saying they are just eggs. For example, this is just a bird. This is just a rat, this is just another bird, this is just a bull, this is a horse, and this is just a dick. Although I will explain certain Pokemon here that don't really fit that criteria, let's start with Meowth's evolution. Now I will not look up its name, because they did my boy Meowth dirty. I really like the concept of Meowth as that small bipedal talking cat, even though that was only in the anime. And I was so disappointed when I found out its evolution is literally just a normal, big, dumb cat. I know we already have too many bipedal cat Pokemon, but Meowth really deserved better. They only kind of made up for that with the Galarian version of Meowth. The original still deserves better. Also, I will never forgive this bastard for stealing Meowth's place in Giovanni's lap in the anime. Dumb pancake face. I think the only other ones that I probably need to explain are Drowsy and Hypno. Hypno? Hypno. Hypno? Hypno. Whatever. They are here because, whilst I have no idea what Hypno is supposed to be, or how it came from a weird elephant, I still think their designs are incredibly boring. Like I said, offensively so. Like, Drowsy is just a Kinder Egg, and Hypno some weird old man with a big nose who looks like he would need to stay 1 kilometer away from the local preschool. This is partly a joke on the one hand, but on the other, I just really don't like the yellow design. It just looks so empty to me. Also, I once saw a Pokemon 18 plus version playthrough, and I remember that you used his Pokemon to put the woman in the game to sleep so you could do stuff with them. That kinda disturbed me, but not enough to put them below boring, let's be real. Neutral. As the title states, I don't feel a whole lot about these little creatures. This is intended, I don't have an opinion about every Pokemon there is. I can't really have that, or at least I don't want to put into work to actually work out an opinion. However, a few in here are placed here with specific reasoning. You might remember how I called Charizard overused and thus didn't like it. Well, I do like its pre-evolutions, even though they are everywhere too. I'm not that annoyed by them. Same goes for the other Kanto starters. They are neutral because I am not as annoyed with them being everywhere as I am with Charizard or Pikachu. Now, of course, you might say putting them in neutral, even though I think they are overused, is kinda a bit high. That is because the neutral tag is below how I would rate them without their overuse. Each Kanto starter with the evolution would probably be in the like tier, maybe even the like more tier. So they actually got knocked down 1 or 2 tiers. And I don't feel bad about it. The neutral category kinda acts as a sort of middle ground for these kind of mons. Moving on, I put the Alolan forms of the Rats and Dictrio higher than their original forms, because I can appreciate that little beard and those flowing, glowing blonde locks. Even though, well, they are still not the best designs, they're just rats and a dick. What I don't appreciate, however, is Gigantamax Pikachu. Why in the name of our Lord and Savior Arceus does this pre-evolution of another Pokemon have a fission Gigantamax form? Where's my Raichu Gigantamax, Game Freak? Where is it? I mean, I like Fat Pikachu as much as anybody else, but I still hate the thing that it represents. Its design is the only thing that is keeping it above any true negative tier. Also, the other noteworthy mons are Alolan form of Big Cat. I like its round face, reminds me of my cat. They still stole from Meowth. Gigantamax Meowth. Oh, again, good design, but I don't like ignoring evolutions of Pokemon even though I don't like them. Machoke and Machamp. They are just muscly men and that scares me. Gigantamax Machamp. Hisuian balls. I like their wooden design. They are still just balls. And Mewtwo Mega X. I think Mewtwo is overhyped, and I don't like it that it has 2 Megas, but I don't dislike the designs of the Megas, and one of them is cute, but this one has not too much for my taste, I'm afraid. Again, superficial. I think I have some Pokemon here that would be rated higher by most, but considering that this is the neutral tier, I'm guessing most people don't find this too offensive. Hopefully. Like, okay, to clarify, just because I like a Pokemon doesn't mean I have a lot to say about them. This tier will, again, mostly focus on some Pokemon and not all, because some are just here because I like the design too much for them to be neutral. Anyway, I'm gonna start with all the Gen 1 starter variations. Now, I was quite harsh on all the base versions, but all these Gigantamax and Mega Evolutions are really cool. I'm really a big fan of especially the Charizard Megas. Now, I know what I said about the 2 Megas, but I still can't bring myself to throw them any lower. I played Pokemon Y when it released, and I was still a small Draken, and I couldn't help myself but to adore the Charizard Y Mega Evolution. Also, the Mega from X was cool in the anime too. Otherwise, I like the tank and battleship look of Blastoise, and the jungle and emo look of Venusaur. Seaking is basically up there for the same reason. I thought that fish looked really cool when I first saw it in Soul Silver, which was my first game. I think it's just a very solid fish. Galarian Meowth is up here because I think it's really cool that it got a new look in Galar with the kind of Viking vibe. I still think the original Meowth line deserves more. I don't know, maybe like a third evolution or something. I don't really know how that could be fixed, but the Galarian version definitely made up a good effort to giving me out the coolness it deserves. Now moving on, you may have seen the Abra line here with Kadabra suspiciously missing. Actually, we already saw Kadabra on this tier list, back in neutral tier. Now, why is the rest of the lineup here? I don't like Kadabra's tab. That's it. Golem is also a mon that is in a different tier than the rest of its evolution line. Golem is just cooler than its pre-evolutions, based on it being a thumping dinosaur in a rock, and the Alolan version has the coolest chest hair I have ever seen. I would have ranked it higher if it wasn't the friggin' trade evolutions. I don't have friends, Game Freak. Who am I supposed to trade with, you fuckers? Alright, let's move on to Alolan Grimer and Muk. These two don't just have the superior colors in comparison to the originals, but they also have the cooler lore. In the Gen 7 games, there's a minigame which you need to clean up a mole and feed the trash to Grimer. All natural recycling. Although the Pokédex also states that due to the world and Pokemon becoming cleaner and cleaner, that Grimer will soon be extinct. Oh well, at least they help fill their own graves. Fill? No, they dig. You dig your own grave. You don't fill. I'm gonna leave it in. Cloyster might be a weird pick, but actually was part of my first team in Pokemon Soul Silver because I wanted to know what shell they're evolved into. And for some reason I really liked Cloyster when I first saw it, even though it's just a shell. How the hell does that thing even move? Maybe it's got tiny feet that we can't see. Or it uses its tongue like real oysters do. I guess the world will never know. The last ones I will talk about in the depth are the two legendary birds. Don't worry, we will see the third one, but let's focus on these two. Both are catchable in Pokemon Soul Silver, and can I just say how cool it felt seeing these Pokemon in the overworld for the first time. Like going into the mountain or that power plant or just randomly finding them really made me feel special. Even though my brother killed Moltres on our first playthrough of the game and we both didn't know that we could have just saved before the fight and tried again. Memories. I have yet to forgive him. Like more. Like more. The title is self-explanatory. Let's just get right into it. Raichu. Raichu is the highly underrated pulse evolution of Pikachu for those that foolishly didn't know. And I say it's underrated completely unfairly, as it is better than Pikachu in every way. It has better stats than Pikachu. According to the Pokédex, it can lose 100,000 volt bursts of electricity, something that is never mentioned that Pikachu can do, obviously because it's weaker. Raichu has the obvious superior color scheme and design. I mean, it's orange. It's just so much nicer to look at than that boring yellow of Pikachu. And finally, just look at the definitely superior tail design of Raichu. Need I say more? Next is Mega Beedrill. And it does everything that Beedrill does, but better. It takes a solid B that Beedrill is and makes it better. It looks metal as F-word, and it has 2 more stingers than the original. Also, this was my first Mega in Pokemon Go, so yeah, that's that. Alolan Sandslash and Alolan Ninetales have the same reason why they are up here. The new Ice typing just makes both look so cool and majestic, and giving Pokemon from different regions a type that is almost opposite to what they previously had is something that I adore Alola for. Oh, and Ninetales is one of my mains in Pokemon Unite. Nidoking and Nidoqueen have always been really effed over by Game Freak. And I'm not referring to them not being able to make eggs, which is also dumb. But I am referring to something that most people overlook. Their height. Why, in everything Pokemon, are both of these under 1.5 meters? They are dinosaurs, make them 2 meters tall or even bigger. Why is my 7-year-old brother taller than them? For fuck's sake! Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff is very fine in Pokemon Unite. Growlithe. Growlithe was a Pokemon that I adored. Its evolution even more so, but we will get there. I always wanted to have Growlithe on my team since my first Pokemon game. Gains? This is my first Pokemon gains, okay. I could just never find it. Until my Gen 7 Moon playthrough. In that gen, I was able to actually find a Growlithe and put it in my team where it later evolved into an Arcanine. That made me so happy. Even though I was a tad bit disappointed that it didn't have a regional ice variant like Ninetales, but Hisui made up for that, so it's all good. Vic Treble was great in the anime. Also, I always wanted to have a carnivorous plant as a pet, but my mom never allowed it for some reason. This Pokemon is still great. Just wanted to mention that. The two Gangers are purely here because their design rocks. That big gaping mouth of the Gigantamax really captures the spirit of Gengar, and its Mega is just metal. Especially if you look at its shiny. Why doesn't the normal Gengar have a white shiny? I mean, look at that. Oh. Magikarp and Gyarados are, I think at least, not very surprising to be here. I played Soul Silver as my first game, if I didn't mention it multiple times already, and in that game you can catch a shiny Gyarados. So yeah, great shiny, same for Magikarp. That's it. I actually like this is kind of off script. I don't remember the Mega being here, but I already have the screenshot of the tier list, so I just imagine I have a great reason for Mega Gyarados being here, even though it's probably a mistake. Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon are not the best evolutions in my righteous opinion, although they are still great. Jolteon is a fast boy, Flareon looks hellishly soft, and squishy and warm. I want to take it and pet it. Pet it all day at least. And then there's Vaporeon. Vaporeon. Did you know Vaporeon is scientifically the most huggable Pokemon due to its half-liquid nature? Nothing else! We now get to the last three Pokemon. Two of them have a story, one of them doesn't. Do you know which one doesn't have a story? Guess now on your phone! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's Dragna. I just think it's neat. Now to the other two. Porygon was the one that you could get by gambling in Kanto. I did that, I won it, I love it. And last but not least, we have Articuno. You might have noticed that Articuno is rated higher than the other birds. That's because Articuno is just better, I'm sorry. Articuno just looks so very cool and majestic. It has the coolest typing with ice in comparison to the frankly overused types of electricity and fire. And in reality, I'm just part of Team Blue and Pokemon Go, so yeah. Don't hit me, please. Cute! Okay, so this tier is basically on the same level as the Like More tier, except sometimes it isn't, but sometimes it is. I put a lot of worth on the cuteness of Pokemon. I'm just superficial like that. But some Pokemon here are like actually rated higher than the ones in the previous tier. Those are the ones I will talk about here. The other ones are here because they're cute. And that's enough reason for me to more likely pick them as Pokemon for my team in any game. I will not be judged for my maybe sometimes seemingly incompetent ranking system. Alolan Raichu. Remember when I said that Raichu is just better in every way? As it is better than Pikachu in every way. Same goes for Alolan Raichu and normal Raichu. I mean, in almost every way. Of course, the stats for both forms are the same, but Alolan Raichu has the added coolness of having the Psychic type as a second type. I actually always thought that Alolan Raichu had Fairy typing as second typing. I actually just noticed that it didn't while looking at Raichu's stats for this video. Personally, I think Fairy would have actually been more fitting, but nah, it doesn't matter. Anyway, Alolan Raichu also has such a cool design. It basically personifies the Alolan region by being a cool, surfboarding version of Raichu, having the eyes of a druggie that is seeing every existing galaxy at once. I'm talking about the eye color, that blue and yellow color scheme. I can't really describe it better than I already have. It just looks like a druggie. Also, according to the Pokédex, it can rub its cheeks to create a sweet smell. That's just a free air freshener you get when catching one of these electrical outlet mice. Next, I need to say something about Clefairy and Clefairy. In addition to being very cute, they also made me feel special when I randomly entered Mount Moon and witnessed their event in Pokemon Soul Silver. All the good old days of staying up too late past my bedtime were rewarded by Game Freak, and I blame them for my bad sleeping schedule. Anyway, Tangela. It has shoes. Look at those shoes. They're red. Lapras is probably the main one that would fall more in the category of being majestic rather than cute, but I reckon it's close enough to be put here, and like I said, cute is, well, this entire tier is just an elaborate joke and kind of my way of just having some Pokemon be slightly better than the previous tier. Also, I remember that in Generation 6, if you would use Surfer with Lapras, you would actually be riding on Lapras instead of some generic fish shape. Yes, in Gen 7 and later on, Lapras became the only Pokemon you could ride on, but for me, seeing that in Gen 6 just made my day. I think I don't need to say anything about Eevee and its Gigantamax being in this tier, and the only reason I'm mentioning them even is because I want to flex with my Gigantamax Eevee card. Yes, I know it's not rare, but it looks metal as heaven, right? Last ones I talk about are Mewtwo Y and Mew. Mew's here because it's not only cute, but also the OG mysterious Pokemon. While I never believed the Mew under the truck theory, I did always wonder how to get it, and well, I never found out. And I don't care that much anymore either, so yeah. Still cute though. Finally, Mewtwo Y is here because it looks very huggable. Even though it also looks like it would hate being hugged. Pretty sure if I were to hug it, it would squash my head into a paper airplane with psychic powers. Yet I would still huggly. Huggly? Yet I would still hug it. Mainly with the hopes of it warming up to me and reinflating my squashed head before I am completely lost. It probably wouldn't though. It probably wouldn't. Love. The title speaks for itself. Pokemon in here are very much loved by me. They are very close to being in the highest tier and probably sometimes are. The top two tiers are fluctuating a lot because my opinion obviously isn't always the same and changes depending on my mood or whether or not I recently used or liked any Pokemon in any Pokemon mainline game. Or Pokemon Unite, you know. Let's start with, drumroll please, Oddish. You heard right, Oddish. And Gloom. I will also add Bellsprout to the first three Pokemon that I will talk about. Now, I know these choices seem very odd, and they are, but this is 100% just nostalgia speaking. These Pokemon just personify Pokemon for me. I can remember it clear as day, either walking into the majestic Bellsprout Tower and fighting dozens of Bellsprout, or entering the mysterious Ilex Forest and just seeing these purple berries jumping around. It just makes me happy thinking about it. And that is something that no bad new game will ever be able to take away from me. Because I don't love these Pokemon for their design or their competitive use or any weird gimmick. I love them for the memories they gave me. The memories that always come to mind first when I think about Pokemon back in the day. And Game Freak can try their best, but they can never ruin that, no matter how many bad features they add to future games. Just to clarify, I don't want to say that I think that Game Freak will only create garbage in the future. I'm not that kind of person. It was more of a stylistic way of saying that my memories won't be ruined in any bad future. I'm not being a doomer here. I like the Gen 9 games, okay? Anyway, time to conclude this absolutely perfect tier list of the final three Pokemon, two of which didn't appear until Gen 8 spin-off titles. Arcanine and its Hisuian counterpart, as well as its pre-evolution. Now, these are the ones that are actually fluctuating between favorites and love. When I made this tier list, they were in love. Who knows where they will be in a few weeks. However, same as with Oddish and the rest, they gave me memories. Although in this case, the memories are actually the Pokemon instead of memories they represent. I mean both, but you know what I mean. Arcanine was always so cool for me, and I thought for years it was a legendary. And I think it deserves to be. I think it's cool enough for that. I mean, it's a fire dog that can run at lightning speed. What could be better? I mean, there are things that in the future I will rate higher, but what could be better? If I could have a single Pokemon in real life, this one would have one of the most compelling arguments for it. Just grab into the majestic mane of Arcanine and travel into the sunset. All the same reasons for Hisuian Arcanine, which I think has a great design as well. Now the last thing I will explain is that I also have Hisuian Growlithe here. All that while the OG Growlithe is a few tiers down. Looking back, I could have made a convincing enough argument for the normal Growlithe to also be in this tier. But I chose against it as I think the Hisuian version just immediately earned a place in my heart after I started its quest in Pokemon Legends Arceus. The quest with the weak small one and the strong big one who both lost their parent. I just wished I could have taken the exact Growlithe with me, but sadly that one had to become a plot point, so I had to catch my own. I know the quests and characters aren't really that well written, but I still love them, which is why they are in this tier. Favorite. Now, the very observant of you might have noticed that after going through everything, it is pretty obvious what we have in the final and highest tier. That being... nothing. There's nothing left. I know, I said that I could have put Arcanine up here, but to be honest, I wanted to be a serious and so I wanted to make a bit of a cliffhanger in the question of what would I love more than what I already talked about. Well, for that you gotta wait till next time. Whenever I finish it. Who knows when I will finish this video. Bye!